Warning, the content you're about to receive is for the sole purpose of exposing fake trainers, doctors, nutritionists, life coaches, and wellness gurus, in addition to educate them and provide you with accurate information. One of the reasons that we're doing the show today is because we are basically what we want to do is inform people on every level. And you have to understand that when it comes to any kind of exercising, training, there's a certain common theme that you must follow in order to help reach your full potential. And this is something that I've learned over the years of being in this health and fitness business, to the point where created a fitness app that completely manipulates the three training components, which are the variables and the factors. So as a personal trainer, one of the things that I wanted to do was not just limit myself to train just people that were wanted to be more fit. I wanted to stretch out, and I wanted to learn how to train people that were, for example, hurt in an accident, or people that were athletes, okay? And with that being said, the person that we have on the show today, her name is Christy. Christy, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming to the show. Christy is a fitness competitor, is that right?
Yes.
Fitness. There's different categories in your in that group, and one is what, bikini, there's fitness.
And also figure too.
Figure, okay, so this is really good, this is a really good point, because it's really important that when you're training, that you have to have a main objective, because the things that you need from your training program specifically will be different than someone who is a bikini or someone who is what was the last one?
Figure.
Figure.
Yeah.
So you have something that's you have a very specific way that you need to train yourself in order to maximize your potential. Because if you don't do that, okay, if you don't do that, then you're never going to really look as good as you should. I mean, someone who looks really good on stage looks balanced.
Yeah.
And they look balanced.
Symmetry,
right?
Yeah.
And they look balanced from every angle, because I know, because of being in the sport, I know that the mandatories are such that, they want you to pose a certain way and turn to your left or right, whatever that case may be. So what you have to do is be mindful of that fact when you actually develop an overall program for that, because I can't tell you how many, you probably saw this in the last show that you did. By the way, congratulations on your show. I know you did very well.
Thank you.
But you probably already saw that yourself with competitors who looked better from the front than they did when they turned around.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Because the sport that you're in was very much like the sport that I was in. If you want to be good, it demands so much from you, because you have to pay attention to everything from the front, the side, the back. There's so much detail in that. The average person has no clue what somebody like you goes through, And I've heard it before where they say, why is that? Why is it so hard to do? It shouldn't be that hard to do.
People see like abs or like shredded muscles, but then they don't see like the work that gets put into it.
That's right.
It's so much more. Like, I learned that myself too, going through that.
Yeah, and it's like, you wonder, how hard can this be? And yet there's so much for the viewers out there. There's so much detail that goes into this. So let me ask you this. When you first started, was it training that you first started doing? Like, of the three components that I'm talking about, weight training, cardio, and nutrition, what actually did you get into first, or was it all three?
Oh, it was actually weightlifting. I did like a lot of powerlifting. It was fun, like being like a girl, being able to like increase strength. Like, it made me feel like really powerful and strong. Like, just being in the gym, being able to squat as much as a guy, or
Yeah, it gave you confidence.
yeah,
I'm
it gave
sure.
me confidence a lot.
So then, how long did you actually do that style? Because powerlifting is a very different style than
Yeah.
bodybuilding, obviously. And so, how long did you actually do the powerlifting then?
It was about a year, and then I started focusing more on like nutrition, like what like helped make my workouts better. And then I started looking at these girls on Instagram. I'm like, oh wow, like they look amazing in these bikinis. Like I wonder if I could ever do something like that. And at first it was just a thought, and then I started to become more serious about it, and I was looking for a coach to like perhaps like help me through this. So it was always a goal of mine, and I finally went after it.
Yeah, that's good. That when you think about the people that actually, there's a lot of people over the years that I've been in the sport with training, because I've trained a lot of girls like yourself and guys too. And what you end up finding out is that when you take a look at the people that actually follow through all the way to stage, such a small percentage of people, because they fall off.
I had no idea, because like towards the end, like I really wanted to give up. I was like, I think a month out, but at 3 weeks it really hit me. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. Like I was trying to get through work, like me being a waitress, energy levels were just like, how can I like possibly do this? Like balancing work, meal prep, everything. It was just like my stress levels are off the roof. And then like my coach was like, there's a very small percentage of people that actually step on stage from like from when they first started.
Most don't. Most do not do that.
And then she reminded me like, like you're doing something that most people like can't even do. Like you're doing something really amazing.
That's right. And I'll tell you what's really cool about this. Of course, you're really new at this and young into this thing. But the longer you stay in this thing, Christy, you're going to look back and you're going to, there are times when I look back now, because I was fortunate, I was able to create a physique that was world level caliber. I look back at that now, after all these years, I think to myself, how in the hell did I do that? Because I learned you will too, as you go along, the more that you the better that you get at manipulating those three components, because you did the same thing like I did. When I first started training, I got into the training part of it. I built the equipment, and I did my, so I started with the weights, and I was like looking at Muscle and Fitness magazine. I don't know if you've heard of that magazine, but it's a muscle mag. And because I had
that they would give you like tips on how to like build certain stuff.
Yeah, because I had no point of reference.
Yeah.
In the sport that I was in at the time, and the position that I played, which is where I was going earlier, they didn't want guys like me to lift weights, because in those days they thought that would hurt my performance. They called me my position was not like a lineman. Okay, I was a quarterback, specialty position. None of you guys that are in these specialty positions, this was the mindset back then.
Yeah.
No weight room. They wouldn't even let us go into the weight room. Okay? Linemen, those are the guys that are blocking, on the line.
Yeah.
Yes, but not guys like me. So I never lifted weights. When I actually, the reason why I picked up and started weight training to begin with is because I found myself at the age of 27 in the worst shape of my life. I was astounded by that. So I thought I had to do something. So I knew nothing about that. I got a general idea. I've seen guys lift weights before in high school, but I had no idea. So, my whole thing was, and it sounds like this is maybe something that you'll probably do, is you start trying to find any kind of information that you can find. It's like massive. I was in magazines. I was reading everything that I could possibly get my hands on.
I think I was the same way. I started like Googling what's a low carb diet? What are macros? What is protein? What is this? And then I thought you have to drink a protein shake right after your workout. But a lot of it is just having I guess the right meals, protein. I didn't know. I thought protein was just purely from shakes, but obviously chicken, steak, and everything is protein too. So it's little things and that I had no idea about.
It's a huge learning curve. Let me tell you something. It's a humongous learning curve.
Yeah.
You're tapping into that much of this, and you're going to see how. I'm going to keep repeating myself maybe in this interview, the sooner that you learn about those 3 training components, every nth degree of that, every nth degree about training, because here's what somebody told me one time it was golden. He said, Leo, his name was Don Ross. He's gone now. He was a friend of mine, and I met him at Gold's Gym here in Venice. He said, with regard to exercise and training, because at that point it's like I'm trying everything. I don't know about you, but I was like trying every single thing I could possibly try to see what would work. And he said, Leo, every exercise that you do works to a degree. It's to what degree it works. And here's the thing. Here's why I'm saying it's such a long learning curve. When you're getting ready for a competition, this next time that you get ready for a competition, you're going to go on, you're going to have a plan or a program for you.
Yeah.
It might be the same as last time, but it might be different. Probably little changes along the way. And the reason why it makes it such a long learning curve is because you got to stick with this strategy that you're using to compete. And it usually takes, I don't know, for us it was like 4 months to get in, or 5, or depending on how far in shape.
I hear like a good amount of time to start is at 4 months,
okay.
Or 16 weeks.
It's about right.
Yeah.
It's about right. So think about this for just a minute. It's basic math. If you're taking 16 weeks to try a strategy, to try certain exercises, and then the end result is how you look on stage, okay, you can see how long it takes to finally learn about every exercise and how it affects you. Because here's what I'm going to tell you that's going to happen when you get this thing down.
Yeah.
And here's what Don Ross meant. You will eventually learn that when I first started, I was doing a lot of exercises in my program. And the longer I got into the sport, my exercise selection that I used was very small. It was maybe you've heard this before, a core group of exercises.
Yeah.
Those exercises, Christy, when you know that you have the right exercise for your body, are the ones that work every single time. They never fail you.
Is it like the ones where if you're doing a certain exercise and you're like, why don't I feel this muscle working? And then you try multiple different ones, but you're like, I feel it in this one.
That's
the best way for growth,
very
right?
good indicator. Okay, that's the beginning of what you're going to learn. Yeah. And it's really important to keep in mind that 40% of the exercise that most people do in your repetitions when you're a novice or intermediate, I hate to say it's wasted movement, but it's wasted movement, okay? It's just you lifting weight. Listen, there's a difference between lifting a weight and training the muscle.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And the difference is this. When you're training the muscle, the goal, and it's the gold standard, and it's a hard one to reach, is to feel that movement every single time that you do that.
Yeah.
Not 3 out of 10, or however many reps you're doing, 10 out of 10, and it starts from the beginning.
I think that's what I was doing when I first started lifting. I would just go through the motions like a deadlift.
You're lifting weights.
Yeah, and then now I'm like, okay, do I feel my glute muscles working? Like,
there you go.
Going? Like, is my core tight? Like.
Okay, you're on the right path when you start thinking in that direction. Okay, but you're going to get to the point where you're going to find you find that group that always works for you, but that doesn't end there. Because that's just your base and your solid core that always works for you. But you're always looking for other ones that you want to bring into the mix.
Yeah.
And sometimes the ones that you bring into the mix replace something that you have as a core because it's better.
Yeah.
And you can never stop thinking that what you've got is good enough. It's frustrating sometimes because it's ongoing. It's like, okay, it's never good enough.
Yeah, that's what I love about fitness. Like, you're always learning something. Like, there's always something to improve. Like, you're just always bettering yourself.
Yeah, and you have to have that mindset. And I'll tell you what that does, if you're willing to continue to do that, in one of the segments that I've done today, I mentioned how there's fake trainers and fake clients.
Yeah.
Because you have to be that person. The fake client is the one that will not continue to challenge themselves and take the necessary steps to get better. Mm-hmm. And it's easier said than done. Discipline is a very difficult thing to learn, and especially when you're going into the gym and training with any kind of intention.
Yeah.
Listen, the gym atmosphere, in today's gym atmosphere, pathetic.
It is. Everyone's like on their phones, and I'm just like, are you using this?
Pathetic.
And then yes.
I mean, a few weeks ago, because I go to Gold's when I'm here. Tomorrow morning I'll go train at Gold's. I always do. I'm a member there.
The one at Venice?
Venice, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I train there when I'm here. And you know something, Christy? I mainly, when I was doing cardio, I'm always watching people, you know? Because I'm very fascinated by the human form and just this whole training thing. And I was in Gold's Gym and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was pathetic.
At that location?
Yeah, it was pathetic. That's the mecca of bodybuilding. And just like you said, these selfies and, you know, when they were training, it was like, what happened? I mean, it was like, I remember in the times that we were working out, I mean, we could hardly walk out of the gym because we pushed ourselves that hard. We took our body. Look, the only way that a muscle is going to respond is if you thoroughly exhaust it. You're not going to thoroughly exhaust it by doing selfies and the kind of...
Taking 5-minute breaks.
Yeah, exactly. You take a 5-minute break when you're training for strength, not for the sport that you're in.
That's what I learned about like competing. Like everything was supersetting, and I wasn't used to that type of training, but I learned so much about like having an effective workout versus like just like being in the gym. Let
me tell you something here, and this is a hard lesson that I had to learn, and it all has to do with your physiology. I don't know how long you train. How long do you train in the gym just with the weights?
I would say like an hour and 15.
Okay. Here's what I want to tell you. I'm going to challenge you a little bit. And again, I know you have your own coach. I'm just going to give you my input. And this is stuff, what I'm telling you is stuff that's tried and tested, and it's backed by science. It's how your physiology works, okay? Is the way your physiology is if you start training it past 45 minutes with weights, your body slowly starts going into an overtraining state. When an hour's not bad, but my challenge to you would be this. You should be completing every one of your training sessions in 30 to 45 minutes. Because here's what happens. When I came back from Bulgaria, and they told me that, because I was that guy who not only was he warming up, you know, he was in the gym for too damn long. I was in the gym for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, it was common back then. So the Bulgarians say, well, that's counterproductive, and here's why. See, they were able to tell me why. First of all, you don't need to warm up, A, okay? Secondly, they said your physiology is such that after 45 minutes, your hormones start changing, and your body is not able to, you go into this overtraining state, and it takes you much longer to recover for the next workout. You never, and if you're working out so long, if you repeat the process over and over again, you're constantly going into an overtraining state. Your body cannot recover fully unless you get into a parasympathetic state. We have sympathetic state and a parasympathetic state. Your is a part of your autonomic nervous system, fight or flight.
Yeah.
When you're in sympathetic, which is where you're at right now, this is where we're at right now, your body is constantly trying to adapt to its environment, no matter what it is. It can be a work environment. It can be adapting to when you're on a freeway. That's your sympathetic state is taking care of you, aware, alert.
Yeah.
Okay? But if you don't come out of that sympathetic state, because the only place that your body recovers is when it goes into parasympathetic state. When you sleep, when you're totally relaxed. This is when your body's automatic system. How do you think we stay alive when we're sleeping? That's your parasympathetic state that's built into your physiology at work for you. Yeah. That's parasympathetic. That's where you recover. So here's what the Bulgarians told us. They said, look, there's no such thing as overtraining. If you only go 30 to 45 minutes, you virtually cannot overtrain the physiology.
So there's no like warm up necessary? Like
no. No, I wouldn't suggest that you go from warming up to not warming up, but the point is this, even if you warmed up, get out of the gym in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen to you. Because I thought to myself, there's no way that I can possibly do my workout in 30 to 45 minutes because I'm used to doing it in 2 hours, or hour and a half or 2 hours. What that did for me is I got laser focused. My whole mindset changed because of that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I could do what was taking me 2 hours or an hour and a half. I started getting it done in 30 to 45 minutes. Now, it didn't happen overnight because, again, you have to train mind and body to do that through repetition.
Like something seems hard at first, but until you do it, like.
And you keep repeating it, and you get more effective. And all of a sudden, the movements that you're making are all effective.
Yeah.
Okay, you're exhausting sooner. You don't have to do a bunch of sets. You know, you actually are doing in some ways less than more.
Yeah.
You're more efficient that way. That's what they meant. You know, but right now, see, this is again such a huge learning curve for you, and this is just only in the training aspect of it. You know, the weight training aspect of it. Let me ask you this, because I'm curious. In your training, do you do free weight training and machine training and cable training?
Yeah, like
I
a
assume?
mix of everything.
So what would you say? What would be your best guess as far as percentage-wise? Best guess. How much of your training is free weight training?
I would say like 70%.
Okay. And what about the cable training and machine training? I mean, that's kind of the same, and I'll tell you why. So we're going to say that 70% of your training is from free weight, and 30% of it is going to be from cable and machine. Is that right?
Maybe 60-40,
Okay.
like the mix.
Because here's the reason why that I think that's pretty good. But if it was me suggesting or recommending to you, I would say bump that up to 75% of your training coming from free weight. Here's why. See, the real trainer tells you why, always. And I would challenge you in a nice way. Ask your trainer, why? Why am I doing 60%? Okay. The reason why you want to do more free weight training is because when you're doing free weight training, not only are you having to push or pull and exercise, you're having to balance that exercise throughout that range of motion. When you are having to balance while you're pushing and pulling, it recruits more muscle groups, and there's more activity. You're getting more active muscle groups working together.
So I guess that's kind of like the way my coach has me do it. Like a lot of compound exercises in the beginning, and then following up with like a few accessories here and there. Like,
okay, and that's okay. But compound and isolation or accessories is different than what I'm talking about, because she could be doing compound exercises with machine and cable. I'm talking about dumbbells, barbells.
Oh yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, and there's the reason why you will always get more results from free weight training compared to the machine training, because, okay, conversely, when you're talking about a machine
So like when people do like bicep curls with the cable versus a dumbbell, right?
Yeah, that's not, because that cable is going through a pulley that's pre-designed. You're not really having to balance that as you are with a free weight.
You're not getting the real benefits of like
No, you're
training the muscle.
really not. Okay, and anybody that knows about physiology knows that. Okay, again, I'm not saying that you're going to find people out there that'll say, no, I train just the opposite of what this guy's saying, if you ever mention that. But I'm telling you, I'm telling you based on your physiology. Okay, so then let me ask you this then. So many misconceptions in the industry. When you're training, so we know that you train about an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, that's not super bad, by the way. I mean, you're not tearing yourself up too bad. It's just that when you get, especially when you get past that hour mark, you're putting a little too much stress on your body. Okay?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I used to train for like 2 hours. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not having effective workouts.
Right.
It doesn't matter how long you spend in the gym. It's like how well you spend.
Well, now what I'm telling you, now you know the reason why that you should spend less time in the gym is because of how it affects your
recovery.
Your recovery. Okay, now you know. Okay, it's not just.
Maybe I will try, because I do feel like my recovery's been suffering lately. Like I feel more tired. It's harder to get in the gym. Like motivation, mindset.
Let me give you a little tip. There's one sure way, and I'll go back to, because I want to find out about reps and rest periods with you. One sure way to find out, to find out if your physiology is overtrained is when you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed, check your heart rate. Don't get up first.
Like on your Apple Watch or something?
However, you can check your heart rate. But my point is, don't get up, walk around and check your heart rate. Check it while you're in bed.
Just when you wake up.
Because if your physiology is overtrained, your heart rate will be elevated because your body's having to work overtime to try to
So
recover.
you'll wake up with a...
For example, when my normal heart rate at rest is about 60 beats per minute. When I was in really competition, great shape, it would get down to 40. Because the better shape you get in, the slower that your heart beats. It's in better shape. So on average, it's about 60. When I was overtrained, my heart rate in bed would be 70, 75. And it shouldn't be that.
It should be lower?
It should be, yeah, you should be, I mean, if your heart rate's above 60, I'd be shocked. I mean, you're young to begin with.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's in like the 40s.
It could be, okay? But that's a tell, you know, because sometimes it's hard. One of the things that you're saying to me, because you're finding harder to get into the gym, that tells me that you might be slightly overtrained, or you need to be put on a different kind of program that stirs new motivation.
Yeah.
There's something going on there.
Well, I think because I'm still kind of on a reverse diet right now, like 2 months after my show, because I kind of let myself rebound after, and then like I'm still doing kind of cardio every day, but it's like 15 minutes less than what I was doing before, so we're slowly like tapering off the cardio.
So there's something going on there.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I do. I tap into this stuff, find out what the hell's going on, because it's important. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to wake up every day with fire and you're ready to go, because it's torture.
You have your highs and lows.
Yeah, you do. But there's a certain feeling that you feel, so it kind of like, I'm kind of dragging myself in.
Yeah, like I guess during my workouts, I'm like, man, I'm not really feeling this. Like, what's going on with me?
There's something going on. You're right about that. Okay, and it's in that what we're talking about. Okay, so let's go back to your training. So when you're doing your, how many sets, for example, per body part do you do? Is there a certain amount?
It depends. Like right now I have a 5-day split, so I would have like legs twice a week. One is glute focus, and then a chest, back, and abs day, and then a shoulders and arms, and then it's cardio every day. Okay,
so for example, like when you're doing your arms, triceps, I'm really curious as to how many sets that you're doing per body part. So like, we'll pick one. It could be chest or triceps, but like if you're doing your chest, how many sets or exercises are you? Not exercises, but sets that you're doing. Are you doing 3 sets?
Right now she has me on for shoulders. Back and chest is 3, and then legs is 4. Or she kind of like mixes it up. Like I'll have the same program for 3 or 4 weeks, and then like she'll change it.
Yeah, I actually think that's pretty good, because I've talked about the 21 day. There's a 21 day. Your body has a natural rhythm to it.
Yeah.
In the way
you can kind of see like what your strengths or weaknesses are. So I guess she'll like add on the sets if like she thinks it's necessary.
Yeah. Here's something that's really, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but it's again true based on how your physiology works. What happens with most people, especially these trainers on the market now, they are constantly switching routine. This muscle confusion thing, even though, look, I can tell you that muscle confusion is not effective, but for somebody else, they may think it's the greatest thing in the world, and it works for them. Okay? So keep this in mind as what I'm going to tell you. But based on your physiology and the way it works, there's about 21 days where it starts entering into a plateau. Okay? You'll stay in that plateau. You can tolerate a plateau for about 6 weeks. Okay? The important thing is this. You actually need to take yourself into the plateau, because that plateau will last 3 to 6 weeks before your body just completely shuts down and stops completely making progress. And that 3 to 6 week plateau, that's where all the results are made. And this is what most people don't understand.
So they think like because they're in a plateau, they're not making any progress?
That's right. A plateau is a necessary evil. Okay? And a lot of people don't know that. Okay? And again, I'm telling you stuff that it goes against kind of conventional thinking, you know. So anyway, a couple of things that I wanted to find out is how many sets you're doing. Your rest period sounds like you move at a pretty good tempo.
Yeah,
is that correct?
30 to 45 seconds. Okay.
And then what about you said you do cardio every day. Is that something that you do for a half hour each time?
So for if it's elliptical, it's 45 and Stairmaster is 30, but she kind of alternates like
Okay.
30 to 40 because I was doing like 55 during my prep.
Yeah, and I would tell you that the more cardio that you do, the worse shape you're going to get in.
Yeah, because
Makes you
obviously
stringy.
muscle loss
Right,
and
that's
like
right.
less energy exertion for actually strength training.
Right. So that's good. Now, in terms of diet, how many calories are you taking in?
About 1550 to 1600, and then she's kind of having me calorie cycle. Like on like my rest days, it's like 1400.
Okay. And then how many calories are you taking in? Did you tell me that? Is it 1500?
Yeah, on weight training days, 15 to 1600.
And then how about the non-weight training days? Is she just like
Yeah,
doing this kind of thing?
1400-ish.
Yeah.
Like a few hundred calories less.
Yeah. Okay. And then do you have any idea how much protein you're taking in?
High protein, like 150 grams.
150 grams? Yeah, I'm sure that's, I'm not going to ask you your body weight. What did you compete at? 115?
Yeah, I think 113.
So you're getting plenty of protein. And are you eating protein like every few hours?
Yeah, like usually 5 to 6 meals spread out, like
Okay.
with around 25 grams each.
Here's something that's very fascinating about protein and your body, actually, I thought. Your body is an amazing thing, but yet it does not have the molecular structure or the ability to store protein. And that's the reason why that you have to eat protein about every 3 or 4 hours. It can't store it. It can store carbohydrate energy. It can store fat energy. It can't store protein.
So what if you ate like, you missed like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 meals, like you can't have like too much protein in one sitting? Like,
Say again, what's your question again?
Oh, like having like, I guess say like on an average, like I get like 20 to 30 grams like every 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like what if I decided to like have a lot of protein in one sitting?
Well, your body can only assimilate so much.
So that's why it's better to have it spread out.
Well, yes, but one of the things I learned is I learned this trick in Bulgaria actually from see in Bulgaria they don't have a steady source of protein. It's really weird. You know, we don't know how lucky we are in this country. Over there, they can't just walk into the store and any day back then, I don't know how it is now, and get protein. Sometimes they wouldn't have protein for a while. So what they learned, how the Bulgarians adapted to that, is they learned that if they starve their body from protein for a certain amount of days, then when you start bringing protein back into the body, it doesn't know when it's going to get protein again, so it hoards it. You actually teach your body how to take in more than 20 grams of protein. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you can teach yourself to do that, but generally, kind of a general rule of thumb is that it's hard for your body to assimilate more than 40 grams at one time.
Yeah.
But that's only because you can teach it how to do that.
But if you're like strength training all the time, it's like your body needs more of it, right?
That's correct.
To recover.
In fact, I would tell you that a gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight, and even higher than that, 1.5 grams or 2 grams. I mean, the Bulgarians told us that we should actually take in 4 grams per 1 pound of body weight because of what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then as far as, you say you train 5 days a week. Is it just, do you cycle 5? I mean, is it the same 5 days all the time?
Yeah, like if I miss a certain workout, then she doesn't like take it off. It's just moved on to the next day.
Yeah.
So
Okay. And your rep scheme is how many reps do you do normally?
it's been about in between. Lately for like my last leg day, it was really high volume, like 40 reps in a set.
I like that word volume because not too many people understand that volume is where it's at for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Here's a big misconception, and we're gonna start wrapping. We're gonna wrap the show up a little bit here. But here's a big misconception. In fact, I called Jillian Michaels out on one of my YouTube channels because she said, and it's not only her. People think that strength training is the best way to put on muscle. Do you believe that?
I believe a combination of both.
Okay. Because strength training is specific for getting stronger. A side effect of strength training is putting on muscle. Volume training, meaning repetitions ranging from 5 to 100.
Yeah.
Volume training specifically puts on muscle with a side effect that it puts on strength. And yet I would tell you what, you can go ask just random question. Hey, what's the best way to put on muscle, lifting more weight or doing more reps? Most people will tell you lifting more weight. And they're fake trainers because I see this all the time in Google News. And it's inaccurate. Yeah. Volume is where you put muscle.
I believe that because before I was all about strength training, like when I first powerlifted, and then like once I was in prep, like I was doing like lots of volume, and like I was just like I looked way more muscular, like my weight wasn't the same. I was like, how do I look 110 here, and then like I look like way smaller, but I weigh more. So
case in point, because you know bodybuilders, they look strong, but they're not. Those guys are. I mean, I'm not going to say compared to a power lifter, they're not strong. But that sport doesn't require you to be strong. Yeah. You got to be specific to your goal. That sport, bodybuilding, and the sport that you're in, requires you to look a certain way, and symmetrical, not strong. And yet people think that, you know, heavier weight training is the best way to put on muscle. It's an ongoing debate, and it will continue.
It just depends on your goals.
It continues. Yeah, that's right. And goals means you have to have an objective every time you do something. To this day, and being around this sport as long as I have been, I keep asking myself every day, okay, so what am I trying to do here? And in this show, for example, because my training is nowhere near what it used to be. I'm just an old guy having fun in the gym now compared to what I used to do, you know? But I'm still asking myself this with the stuff that we're doing. Okay, I'm saying, okay, what the hell am I doing this for? Why am I doing these interviews? I need to know that specifically because then I can communicate in a very strong way my message. Otherwise, I'm not doing that because I'm going to look like to everybody else like, well, he's just saying everything everybody else is. I have to have a very powerful message. This is how politicians get elected because they have a very strong message. Well, that's no different than with you. You have to keep asking yourself, what the hell am I specifically trying to do? And you're doing that already, you know? Yeah. But it's really hard, and that's the reason why you have a coach. It's hard to be in a sport that's subjective, and then you're trying to make objective calls. Yeah. It's a hard thing to do. It's like when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're trying to gauge how well that you really look. Yeah.
What does your body respond well to versus what it doesn't?
And how do I look in that mirror compared to a photo? Because what a photo does, over time, it becomes very objective to you because you've had time now to become objective. Yeah. In the mirror.
Like the lighting, like everyone's lighting.
It's crazy.
Like, yes.
I mean, there were times that I didn't even know if I looked the way I looked because of all those things that you're talking about. Anyway, hey, listen, it was lovely meeting you, and I wish you really the best. I think that, listen, for somebody who's just been training for a few years, and I'm not just saying this because I don't do that. I talk straight to people, but I'm telling you, I think at the stage that you're at, you have a lot of tools to work with. Now, it's just a question of, do you have the perfect willingness to take your body to the place that I can see where it can be. But it's going to take a lot of perfect willingness. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully, and maybe you'll come back another time, and I'd like to see you in another couple of years if you keep competing to see how you look. Yeah. You know, compared to where you're looking now. And you look good now, but you're going to see you're going to look a lot different.
I definitely want to go after a second show.
Oh yeah, I think you really should. You know, because once the bug really bites, beware because it makes you a little bit crazy. That's okay. It's so important to be crazy in the sport. Anyway, thank you for coming to the show, and we'll see you again. Okay? Thanks a lot. If you want more information about this, click on that link below and go to my website. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below.